Nigeria's Minister of State for Education, Emeka Nwajuiba, has received the forms to vie for the presidential ticket of the All Progressive Congress. A group called Project Nigeria repeatedly procured them on his behalf for 100 million naira. Arise correspondent Mary Chinda reports.
The man, Emeka Nwajuiba, as he makes his way to the reception organized for him to receive the APC's expression of interest form to run for the most exalted position in Nigeria, the office of the president.
You are a great man. Our children are back in school. What you have done for education today, and most of our children were out of school, but because of your foresight, people now are able to go to school.
Gathered here are pressure groups, members of the House of Representatives, volunteers, and journalists.
You have been going all part of the country. You take it as your home. There's no different. You can go to North and deliver a good job with clean mind, and you can go to the other length of the country and do a good job. So we decided that if that's the case, you have to hold the steering so that you can take us to the right destination as Mr. President.
Professional colleagues and senior colleagues of the education minister describe him as a detribalized Nigerian and the one best suited to lead the nation.
We need a change. We need people who are tested. Honorable Emeka Nwajuiba is suave, is intelligent, is committed, is patriotic.
After receiving the 100 million naira form, the presidential aspirant says rescuing Nigeria will be more work and less talk.
I want to also thank Mr. President, our President Muhammad Buhari, who in the course of the 20 years that I have been in his political household has offered me the opportunity to learn and a platform to offer my little effort in service of our fatherland, Nigeria.
He is quick to speak on the strike by the Academic Staff Union of universities.
In the nearly 200 universities across Nigeria, the federal government owns less than 50 of these universities. The state governments own nearly 50 of them as well. Whereas private individuals and private organizations, faith-based organizations, own another 100 plus. The only part where children are not in school at the moment are the ones that belong to the federal government. So there is no need for any other university to be at home. The engagement with ASU has been a long drawn one based on the 2009 agreement that was signed before we came into government.
He hints on whether or not he will be resigning in another 4 or 5 days as required by the National Working Committee of his party.
The resignation of a minister or anybody who is in office is guided by the Constitution of the Federal Republic. We are required to contest elections if we want. We are required to resign 30 days before any election we choose to contest it. That is the position of the law. Every other person can have an opinion. My position is that the law of the country rests on the ground norm called a constitution.
As the Emeka Nwajuiba campaign train holds more consultations ahead of the APC primaries, his achievement as Minister of State Education and House of Reps member will come to mind. Mary Chinda, Arise News.
Meanwhile, Senator Amosun has declared his intention to contest the presidential seat in the 2023 general election. The senator from Ogun Central made a decision known in a letter he wrote to the Senate. The former governor of Ogun State says the experience makes him fit for the seat and promises to help Nigeria to achieve her manifest destiny. Also, the governor of Cross River State was at the Maitama residence of APC chairman to notify him of his intention to run for president. Professor Ben Ayade told the chairman that he's ready to become the candidate of the party at the upcoming elections in 2023. The APC chairman, Abdullahi Adamu, wished him well in his endeavor and praised him for his great work he's been doing in Cross River State.
Letter from distinguished Senator Ibukule Amosun, CON, FCA. Our dear Senate President, notification and invitation to the formal declaration to contest for the office of President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria under the All Progressives Congress, APC. I bring the greatest respect that I write to notify you and my distinguished colleagues of my intention to contest for the office of President of our dear country, the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and to respectfully invite you and my distinguished colleagues to the formal declaration ceremony.
My ambition for the post and position of the President of this country is driven by my own childhood experience, having been weaponized by childhood poverty, succeeding at the tender age of 25 to overcome all of that, grown to where I am, having conquered poverty in my private life and in my corporate life, having served as senator, as governor, two-term governor, a lawyer, a professor, with long-standing experience, having shared romance with poverty. I think that I have the street wisdom, I have the exposure, the intellect, the capacity that can help support Mr. President to continue from where he stops.
As presidential candidate for every part or every Nigerian living who is interested in politics and who leads him. So mine is to wish you the best of luck and to assure you that this party will work on ensuring that we have the best and only the best to present to the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I wish you all the luck.
All right, to know your views on this.
I'm going to start with Senator Ibukule Amosun and that notification and invitation to his official declaration on the 5th of May. What he said in that letter, basically, was just pointing out his experience, his competence, the vast network that he's established, and I trust that his colleagues in the Senate will be there to support him because he is very popular as a senator. This is his second time in the Senate, and he's also referred to as a member of President Buhari's kitchen cabinet. I'm not going to use the other word that's often used there. So because they have a very close relationship from the CPC days, although, as we've discussed here oftentimes, we still don't know whether that makes him that mystery anointed candidate. Not that, in my opinion, it should matter. Ideally, it should not. But we all know the way the game is played here. And now to the Minister of State, Mr. Nwajuiba. Well, he talked about not stepping down according to his own party's guidelines, which have required that political appointees should step down, pointing to the law of the land, requiring him to step down only 30 days before. We all know what happened there. We all recall the intervention of the Attorney General. But I would just hope that all those aspiring would not essentially risk their aspiration on that, because an appeal court could come out with anything at this point. Anything could literally happen. I think it would be safer, much safer, to err on the side of caution and just resign. Why ever not? And it actually makes sense, if you're really interested in public service, to actually serve the people properly and resign and let somebody else fill your shoes, especially now that we have the ASU strike ongoing, because there's no way, there are only 24 hours in a day, there's no way ministers and ministers of state will not be distracted by their presidential campaign. So even apart from the sort of murkiness of the current legal position, it's just practical common sense and actual service provision to resign at this point. But regarding him, he was also in the House of Representatives. I also like to point out the previous experience that people have had. Senator Amosun was a senator, he was a governor. Mr. Nwajuiba is not a political neophyte. He's been in the political system for decades at this point. He was in the House of Representatives, is now the Junior Minister for Education. But what I found striking in his declaration, he pointed out to what the Muhammadu Buhari administration has achieved in terms of infrastructure and in terms of upliftment of poverty. He did not cite any improvement in his own portfolio, which is education. And for me, that speaks volumes. Apart from the ASU strike, which can be dismissed and say that's not really his fault. That's to do with IPIS and the way our universities are funded. For me, it is glaring that he did not say any kind of advancements in education. For me, that's a problem.
Dr. Bati?
Okay. I think the matter is as follows. The first is the point I made yesterday that, look, it looks like the presidency of Nigeria has become an all-commerce affair. We will come tomorrow morning and we will sit here. We will probably hear that some other people have declared. In the last 24 hours, Emeka Nwajuiba, Minister of State for Education, Senator Amosun, former governor of Ogun State, serving senator, and also we had that former speaker of the House of Representatives, the Miji Bankole, has also declared. I mean, the presidency of Nigeria has been so devalued. Everyone now thinks, including my mechanic, that he can become president of Nigeria. I will not be surprised if we wake up tomorrow and Obi Kubana and E-Money, there is another one they call white money, also decide to declare for the presidency of Nigeria, because all it takes for you to declare for the presidency of Nigeria is to be able to have 100 million naira in the APC, 40 million naira in the PDP, and then you can just come and say a group of friends have bought the form on your behalf, as you have been told by Emeka Nwajuiba, Minister of State for Education. So maybe I should start looking for my own friends too.
I think you should.
But if Obi Kubana and white money and E-Money are going to be part of it, maybe I should allow them, because it's increasingly become a game for the money bags. That's one leg of it. The second leg of it is that Emeka Nwajuiba is Minister of State for Education. The education sector is heavily troubled. Now we have two major stakeholders who can help us resolve the problem. The universities have been shut down for the past 75 days, right? Even SANU is on strike, I hear. The universities have not been able to resume since February 18. And now you have the Minister of State. He says he wants to be president. The Minister of Labor and Productivity, Senator Chris Ngige, who is the arbiter in the matter, he too is running for presidency. Okay? So what are we left with? And the two of them are saying that the APC has not given any directive that whoever wants to be president should leave the cabinet, or whoever is running for office. President Buhari himself, on whose desk the buck stops, has not given any directive to that effect. And yet at the state level, we have seen some of the governors in Sokoto, yesterday, about 11 commissioners, the SSG, and one other major functionary resigned, because the governor has said, if you want to run for elected position, please leave. Let us know who is still back here. Okay? In Kano, about 10 persons have left. In Bayelsa, in some other states, people have been leaving. But at the federal level, no minister is leaving. We can count the number of ministers in President Buhari's cabinet who are all pursuing one rat or one rabbit in the bush or in the forest or in the margin forest of a presidential aspiration. And they are all still there. So effectively, this Buhari administration is already lame duck, because these people are no longer focusing on their job. Okay? So that's one major problem that we need to deal with. It's not enough for Emeka Nwajuiba to come forward and say Section 66, Section 107, Section 88. I think, one other person also quoted that, protects them, that those sections protect them. No. They have to be mindful of the fact that once they are involved in this presidential race, they are no longer serving the Nigerian people. So the matter is not just constitutional, it's also moral. If you want to go and run for election, Minister of Transportation wants to be president, Vice President wants to, Vice President is excluded. He's an elected person. Other ministers, Minister of Labor, Minister of State for Employment, other ministers will show up tomorrow. So who is governing Nigeria right now? The president has to take a decision, right? That's number one. Number two, Senator Amosun. I know you once worked with him. You were his special assistant. He too sent a letter to the Senate.
As a senior special assistant, actually.
He has experience He's been governor 2 times. He's been senator 2 times, okay? And he says he has the experience to lead Nigeria. There was a phrase he used that he wants to lead Nigeria to his manifest destiny. He says, and all these former governors, they say, oh, my record where I once served works for me and all of that. And Amosun has chosen May 5 as his day of declaration. But in Senator Ibikunle Amosun's case, his strongest point is that he's a close associate of the president. Okay? So, what point is he selling really? He still needs to articulate those points that he wants to sell. Maybe he will do so on May 5. People should not become president on the basis of friendship, nepotism, cronyism. We would like to engage him at the level of ideas. So I think that at the federal level, those at the federal level who are showing interest, they are not behaving well. Over 60 commissioners across the states have resigned because of their respect for the controversial nature of Section 84, subsection 12. The Emeka and Nwajuiba, we should be worrying more about how the universities will be reopened in collaboration with his principal, the Minister of Education. He says he too wants to be president. Well, I'm waiting for Obi Kubana and white money and e-money, you know, and my mechanic for them to also carry placards and say they also want to be president. Meanwhile, Senator Ayade, governor of Cross River, he has moved a step further. I hear he has been visiting Asokoro residence, or is it Maitama residence of the, that's him, visiting the chairman of the party. So we have very interesting days ahead. But as ordinary people of Nigeria, we just want serious-minded people who are interested in this race because they have something to offer, not because they say the president has told me to go and run. A patriotic group has pushed me. One other group has pushed me. We don't want such people. We want people who believe in Nigeria and who want to serve, truly.
Tundu, you were asking what has Honorable Emeka Nwajuiba done, you know, with his position as Minister of State for Education. What are his achievements? I think the 73-day ASU strike is his achievement.
Oh, dear.
Yes.
75 days.
Okay, 75 days ASU strike.
But his children went to Nigerian university.
I think it's that he himself went to Nigerian University. He went to University of Jos. He went to University of Jos, went to University of Lagos, you know, where he studied law. So was this how universities were run when he went there? And I think it's obvious that Nigeria's presidency today is the best presidency money can buy. Yes, Nigeria's presidency is a product. You dole out the cash, you buy it. Nigeria's presidency as we speak today is for sale. The question is, how much money do you have? You know, Nigeria's presidency has become like, what do I call it, playing poker. People sit at the poker table, they are paying, they are playing, they are betting and all of that. And the wager is 100 million. So some people just paid 100 million yesterday to keep playing. The question is, how much can you spend? And all of this is going on at the expense of suffering Nigerians. People that don't have the morality to resign from government position to be able to seek elective position are the ones that want to run Nigeria. They think they have the morality in the eyes of Nigeria. Ordinary common morality to resign, which is general acceptable moral standard, that if I'm seeking another position and I'm in one, I'll resign so that another person can run that position. They are the ones that are pushing forward the level of morality to run. Like I said yesterday, Dr. Abati, I was correct again. That Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, a lot of people from his inner caucus will run. Amosun is from his inner caucus. Senator Ibikunle Amosun, Sia, as it's fondly called.
They fell out.
They fell out, okay. Also, there are still so many people that are still coming to the race. Probably like you said, maybe white money.
E-money.
E-money.
Obi Kubana.
You know, will be on the ballot.
If it's about money.
Yes.
Obi Kubana.
Because the Nigerian presidency, yes, because the way it's going,
The go is going. Liquid metal. I'm not...
In the Boski.
In the Boski. We run. And please, let's not be surprised. That's all on news headline. We take a short break now. When we return, we have Rotis of Jerry Market. Obviously, that is tomorrow to give us updates.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Our dependable Rosa Sadiri is here to give us an African business update. Good morning, Rosa.
Morning, Tunu. Good morning,
Rafai. Yesterday.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you why I ditched you yesterday in a moment. But good morning to you all. Good to be with you all again, and good morning to all our viewers. We start with pensions. The National Pension Commission, remember, has a year ago issued a directive to PFAs, pension fund administrators, that they had to increase their share capital from 1 billion naira to 5 billion. So that expired, that deadline expired yesterday as of the 27th. So essentially, as of December, how many of these PFAs, pension fund administrators, have actually met this new share capital threshold? PENCOM said it was 10 out of 22 as of December of last year. And the thing is, what now happens next? Well, there's three options. Either PENCOM extends the deadline again, or they force the remaining PFAs that are yet to recapitalize, they force mergers to happen between them, or they revoke their licenses, which would be, I think, a bit extreme. A lot of folks, at least, that have reached out to me asking, hey, what does this mean for my retirement savings account if one of the PFAs that is yet to recapitalize has their license revoked? The funds are still safe because essentially you would be able to transfer to another pension fund administrator if that was to happen. But again, we haven't heard from PENCOM yet. Again, one of those three options is what will take place. So looking at the assets under management as at February, 13.7 trillion naira is what we're seeing as far as total assets under management, as far as the pensions are concerned. In dollar terms, at 416, it's about 33 million. Registered retirement savings accounts, we've got about 9.5 million, which in a labor force of 65 million, that is pretty low. But essentially, we have to see what happens next with PENCOM. We move to customs and vehicles. As far as used car vehicles are concerned, there's been some issues here. Remember, a couple weeks ago, the customs said that there would be a reduction in the import duty on used cars coming into the country. They reduced it from 35% to 20%. This was to comply, well, after pretty much they're saying it was to comply with the ECOWAS common external tariff, which says that which Nigeria is a signatory to, saying that, well, as a signatory, you should not impose more than 20% of duties on used cars coming in. So they took it away, but then they brought in this National Automotive Council levy of 15%. And what I understand is that levy was supposed to boost vehicles assembled in Nigeria for local car manufacturers, about 36 of them or so. And also, that National Automotive Council levy is supposed to be 2% of, I guess, the total cost plus insurance plus freight of the vehicles being brought in. So there's been a lot of pushback on this 15% levy that's been imposed, this NAC levy, because you're essentially, the 15% that you took away from the import duty from 35 to 20%, you've now brought it back. So there's been a lot of back and forth in that regard. So we'll have to see how that gets resolved. But I mean, pretty much that increases the cost of, what it would cost to bring in used vehicles, which the numbers have actually risen compared to new vehicles because of the crunch on disposable income, inflation, the dollar, the exchange rate, and so on and so forth. So that again just puts the burden back on folks that are bringing in used cars. Now, to the reason why I ditched you all yesterday, which was unfortunate, but MTN Nigeria and the Pan-African, I was making the same error they were making yesterday, Pan-Atlantic University. They have launched a new media course, a 6-month course for journalists which requires a 6-month course that comes with a certification. It also, is supposed to, that's Simon Komolafe of the cable, of the cable, and a number of other, that's our very own
Steve
Ayude on the morning show on the weekends. He's also
very own.
Yep, very own. Essentially, after 6 months, you get accredited, and then you've got access to a whole number of resources and so on and so forth. So that's what they announced yesterday. And then in Kenya, unfortunately, the Hilton is in Nairobi is closing after about 53 years. They said it wasn't COVID, but that COVID was indirectly part of the reason why operations have been, hampered. And there will be job losses. Apparently, they're going to retrench workers. By December of this year is when they will close down. The Kenyan government actually owns 40% of the Hilton Nairobi. So Kenya Twitter, I'm very much involved in Kenya Twitter. I see what's going on. There's a couple of there's a couple tweets from a couple of individuals, the reactions. If you take a look at one of the tweets from I think it was Paul. He showed a picture of the hotel back in when it was built, 1960 or 50 or so, saying that the government should come to the aid of the hotel, and they've been talking about saving jobs, and they should save the jobs, and they should save it. And then a gentleman by the name of Killer, I'm not sure if that's alias or so, he said, well, the thing can't compete anymore. It's not about government this and government that. Have you been inside? I don't know what that. My Kenyan slang is not up yet, but he just said that the walls are thin, it's not soundproof, the location is longer attractive, and the hotels in the CBD, which is the central business district, have all lost their value, and it's time to repurpose the building. So that's what's going on over there.
Sad one. Sad one for that heritage. I mean, I think part of the things that happened also to it is Airbnb.
That's correct.
Other very nimble structures and businesses.
In Kenya?
In Kenya.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so because Kenya has got a lot of tourism money coming in, a lot of tourists are coming in there, and people are doing a lot of Airbnb. And the fact that most of these big hotels, the cost is dropping because I mean,
shortlets too.
Shortlets too, because I mean you get a decent room for about $30 to $50 to $100, and these rooms like this from the Hilton will go from $250 to $300 and the likes. So that has also happened to the business structure. In fact, I was at a conference once with a business leader. I think he was from one of the Sheraton hotel franchises, and I said he was in a forum. He was speaking, and he was bragging that, I will add 500 new rooms in the space of 2 years to the Sheraton brand. And Brian Chesky of Airbnb looked at him and said, really? I'll add 2 million rooms in 2 years.
Such a disruptor.
So
that is the word.
And that's the word.
That is the word.
And that's what's happening to businesses today. So it's quite very sad. But the other part is, can't they sell it? Isn't somebody going to buy it? But like you said, it's just a behemoth that nobody wants to buy because nobody will even be able to crack out the revenue. So maybe they have to retrofit it and look at it once again. So that goes back to government and infrastructure.
Just to take you back to what you said about paying income, a slight correction there. When you did your exchange, currency exchange, you said $1 million.
Yes, it's million. At
billion.
No, it's million.
Trillion to billion.
33, let's see, 33 in 13 trillion would be, it is 33 billion. Yes, it is correct. Thank you.
A few zeros.
Yeah, a few zeros. Thank you.
On Kenya.
Yeah.
Now, Hilton has been in Kenya since 1969 under Jomo Kenyatta. And they've been running this major hotel in Nairobi, 257 rooms. Some of them double rooms, plenty of pools and all of that. But what is curious is the management is saying that the problem is not COVID, because we all know that COVID affected the travel, tourism, and hospitality industry. And tourism and hospitality is, these are two sectors that are major revenue earners for Kenya. But now, Hilton is saying it has to shut down. This is a flagship location. I guess that part of the problem is that the Kenyan government owns about 40.57% of the business. And the Kenyan government has not been able to meet up its obligations. Now, in Nigeria here, we always say anything government touches, we have problems. Because if government doesn't meet up, whether it is in the oil and gas sector or elsewhere, then the business will continue to have problems. But one thing that I like here is that Hilton is saying that it will help the staff get alternative options. They will still be operating within the country. They have some other hotels, to which some of these, employees may be diverted. So, in other words, this is not a piano situation. This is not a better.com situation of a Vishal gag in the United States. Okay, to that extent, I think Hilton is trying to put a human face to the retrenchment. Definitely, as they have admitted, there will be retrenchment. But the lesson here is that, I think it's sad in Africa that when government is involved in any kind of business, that business is likely to have problems. And we go back to that original residual point about leadership. Okay, so that is that about that. And then about customs. Look, yes, customs in Nigeria says 15% levy on used cars that are imported. Now, before now, it was supposed to be on finished products, on tier rubber vehicles. And then all of a sudden, the Nigerian Customs Service says, we are extending it also to used vehicles. And the Association of Licensed Customs Agents, I think that's what they call them. Yeah, okay, they are protesting. They had a mock protest this week, 25th, 26th. And they're saying that if government continues this way, if that policy is not reversed, then they will stop importing and clearing vehicles. The people in the forefront are clearing agents. Okay, they say it's obnoxious. They say it makes no sense, and that the 15%, will just kill their business. But the Nigerian government, the customs, is talking about the common external tariff. Now, I thought at a point in time, Nigeria was opposed to the common external tariffs under the ECOWAS protocols. At what point did we now embrace the CET? At what point did we resolve our issues with the CET? The net implication of this is that very soon, the licensed agents at the ports, clearing agents, they call themselves, will no longer be able to clear Tokumbo vehicles, as they are called popularly. And ordinary people like us who use Tokumbo vehicles will not be able to buy Tokumbo vehicles.
Correct.
Used vehicles.
That is
we will
correct.
no longer be... Tono, stop looking at me. I don't imagine that.
She gets
Tokumbo vehicles are...
Yeah, she doesn't
because every time I see these younger people buying Tokumbo vehicles, we watch it, we celebrate it. These people, they want to limit the extent of implications and consequences.
It must not be
because
allowed.
these people will no longer be able to buy vehicles to be able to move around.
Correct.
Okay. However, the obsession with Tokumbo vehicles should not be a priority for a country. Nigeria should be able to produce vehicles. And it's good that Dangote Group has bought Pojo Automobile in Kaduna, and that we have Innocent. So the flip side of it is to encourage local production of vehicles, so that we don't keep hearing we have this tariff on Tokumbo vehicles. The Tokumbo vehicles that has fetched some people, new wives and extra wives and multiple wives, just because they were able to buy a miserable 1 million naira car. Anyway, don't worry. I'm
miserable.
joking.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Moving on now to more business update. Emeka Wilson joins us from London. Good morning, Mr. Wilson.
Good morning. Shares, let's do Asia Pacific first. And shares actually rose very slightly. Bank of Japan, as widely expected, did absolutely nothing about interest rates. Still feel the economy is slightly too weak to do anything there. But the Chinese president called for an all-out effort to construct infrastructure. To construct infrastructure, and his comments come as mainland China has been facing the worst outbreak of COVID since the initial stages, and also that lockdown. So the Chinese central bank's been supporting the yuan. It's tumbled about 3% this month, and it's also being taken as a continuing support for the Chinese currency. They don't want to get it weakening too much. Samsung in South Korea has reported first quarter profits. It's a record there. We know that mobile phone sales are flagging, but this isn't about that. This is about the memory business and the way in which that's going to be seen to be increasing over the next few years with artificial intelligence and the rest of it. As far as the United States is concerned, NASDAQ futures rising a little. I'll come on to the Meta shares in a moment. Futures on the Dow up about 70 points. After hours trading saw the NASDAQ down to its lowest level, so it's been seesawing around a little. but the Dow up 61.75 points. And today the big ones are Apple, Amazon, Twitter, and Robinhood as well. And also those weekly jobless claims are out today. Facebook, this is an interesting one actually. So they've eked out, as they're putting it, some more daily subscribers. That's the crucial figure that advertisers always go to. The stock's down about 26% recently. It's come up a little, but it's still down. It's still down a fair amount. And it's like all these tech companies, it's not achieving stellar results, and therefore it gets marked down. Elon Musk has lost his bid to end Tesla's tweets oversight deal. Basically, he's been saying, as I've been saying for a while, that he was using Twitter to up the Tesla shares, and he said that he had the funding secured to potentially take Tesla private. A deal was apparently not close, so therefore, but he's lost out on that. Now, here's a really important one as far as the war in Ukraine's concerned. EU energy groups are preparing to meet Putin's terms to buy Russian gas, which means preparing ruble accounts. Gas distributors in Germany, Austria, Hungary, and Slovakia are sitting down. That is not pleasing a number of other countries within the EU. That one will run and run. European shares, they're hoping for a better day than they had yesterday, but still all those concerns surrounding everything. In the UK, the Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, may well be has been hinting at a U-turn on energy relief because of the cost of living crisis here. You were talking about car production. UK car production is down by about a third, unsurprisingly, in the UK, struggling with global supply problems and also chip shortages and so on. It could be that the UK Indian billionaire Mukesh Ambani buys Boots. Boots, as you probably know, has been a staple of high street shopping, chemists, and so on for years in this country. And he could be going there. It's Walmart, the Walgreen Boots Alliance, which Boots came under, said that it reportedly has put the company up for sale a few months ago. And we'll be talking a bit more about this with Reuters, but an FCA official has been saying in this country that we need to have a cooperative and a co-aligned policy as far as cryptocurrencies are concerned. Like most central banks, as we know, the Bank of England's been looking at its own, Britco currency, but nothing to do with the commercial ones that are still available. And unsurprisingly, oil's been sliding on the latest plans from Russia, but of course, all that could change, as it probably will by the time I talk to you tomorrow morning. That is the global view.
Let's talk about Boots. Boots being sold to Mukesh Ambani, that owns Reliance Group and probably owns the biggest and the most expensive house in the world, which cost about $1.2 billion. Is it the beginning of the end of the high street? Because ownership is changing increasingly. And when you look at it, nothing much left of British ownership any longer. Is this the end or the beginning of the end of British enterprise? Just saying. Secondly, when is the best way to deal with Russia? So is this a confirmation of the words of Clemenceau that says in war, petrol is more important than blood? Because now Russia is shutting away other small Baltic nations and not giving them gas and telling everybody to help prop up their ruble by paying them in ruble?
Yeah, I think you're right. Let's talk about the high street first of all. You asked a number of questions there. End of the high street? No, absolutely not. It will just have different kind of ownership. Do we worry about who owns what? I don't particularly. I just want to have good retail. And retailers are usually quite energetic about thinking about changing ways and so on. Maybe big shopping centres like Oxford Street and the rest of them will have different kinds of use for that retail space. Some of it may be accommodation, who knows? But it may be about experience. I still think that the retail experience is something that people actually enjoy. I'm not so sure that whilst it's sometimes convenient to order from home, I think people also like to get out. That depends on a number of things, as I'm sure it does everywhere in the world. Are places accessible? Can you walk safely? Can you walk safely at night? Can you park somewhere? All these kind of things. So I think the high street's got a long way to go. I think that Boots will continue to exist in the same way that it will, because it would be crazy, whoever buys it, to get rid of that brand, whoever owns it. Where the profits go, it's the way the world works. It's about cooperation, and it's about industrialization, and it's about the way in which the money goes around the world. As far as Russia's concerned, I think you're absolutely right. Follow the money. That's what they're concerned about. They're concerned about the economy. We don't know what kind of shape that's in at the moment. We make guesses, but we're not quite sure. Do we still want to buy Russian gas and oil? Are countries actually going elsewhere to buy it? Yes, they're planning that very hard indeed. But I think it's important to note that temporarily it may be that some of these European economies have to work out ways of going towards those contracts. What I didn't say in my report, and this is a suspicion that I have, and it's not really backed up by anything, but for what it's worth, I would imagine that a lot of lawyers are going over contracts and so on right now and saying, do we need to pay in rubles, or can we just pay in euros as it says on this contract? Now, obviously, it takes two sides to have a contract, and these contracts can be ripped up, but I don't really understand the point of it. I asked the very naive question, and I don't know the answer to this, hence it's a very naive question. What is Russia going to do with its oil and gas? I do not know.
Okay, quickly, Michael. Elon Musk, after the $44 billion deal with Twitter, now says he wants to buy Coca-Cola, John Pemberton's recipe, and that he wants to put the cocaine back in Coca-Cola. Now, this was eliminated during the Prohibition era in 1929. So, who is going to stop Elon Musk? He wants to legalize drug abuse internationally. And what is motivating Elon Musk? Now that he says he wants to put cocaine in our Coca-Cola, so that, well, I don't know whether he will succeed with that, but what goes on in his head, you probably will not know, but this is what we hear. And then secondly, Bitcoin has also been officially adopted as official currency in the Central African Republic, a country that is well aligned to Russia, that previously, its currency is indexed to the CFR, the French denominated aligned currency in Francophone Africa. And now he says it's going to be Bitcoin. El Salvador tried it in September 2021. El Salvador was condemned by the IMF. El Salvador has not succeeded with it. Then now you have this resource-rich country saying going forward the official currency will be, Bitcoin. And I know you are very skeptical about Bitcoin or cryptocurrency in general. So is this premature? Is this senseless?
I'd turn your attention to Argentina, which is, you go along the streets there apparently, and there are adverts for cryptocurrencies everywhere, all different kinds. Why? Because they don't trust what the government's doing with their currency. And I think that's really what it all boils down to. My opinions don't matter. The fact of it is, if you lose confidence in what the central bank's doing, I've got no idea what the central bank in the CAR is actually doing or what it comprises. I simply don't know. But I would point out that this is where Bitcoin and all the other cryptocurrencies, of which there are many, can actually flourish. And if it is that the energy costs are so low in these countries, as they are comparatively in a place like Argentina, you can actually mine cryptocurrencies relatively successfully. So it's a loss of faith in what the central government and the central bank is actually doing, I think, which will drive it in countries like the one you've just quoted. As far as Elon Musk is concerned, if you want to find out about what goes on with drug-related economies, read the history of the United States from about the 1930s and how it has dealt, or not, as the case may be, with the drug cartels in Mexico and across the border into California. And there are lots of novels about this. And the one that I particularly like, the name of the novelist escapes me, but it's called Savages. And it's about the people who indulge in that sort of thing, and also the DEA people who are employed to catch them. And who are the culprits? The culprits are the smart middle-class people who think it's okay to have cocaine at the dinner table. Honestly, I mean, it's barely not. It's not worth talking about. It really isn't. I think that for certain medical reasons, and we've seen cannabis in this country being used for that. That's one thing. Cannabis, marching powder, whatever you care to call it. Cocaine, marching powder, polite up the nostrils of film stars and the rest of it. Forget it.
Well, thank you very much, Michael Wilson.
Right, for updates on COVID-19 pandemic, Adesu Amora is here with us. Adesu, great to have you. How are you? Good morning.
Good morning, Rafai. Great to be here. Good morning, Tundu, and good morning, Dr. Abati.
Good morning.
Morning. Well, globally, morning. We'll talk about changing our friends, perhaps after the show. Friends who will buy us those forms and, urge us to become presidents of Nigeria. Dr. Abati, maybe you need to change your friends. And for COVID-19, let's look at COVID-19, guys. During the week of April 18th to 24th, the WHO says that there were 4.5 million cases and about 15,000 deaths. And that's a continued decrease globally since we've seen since March. This decrease represents 21% and 20% respectively for both infections and deaths as compared to the previous week. However, not all regions of the world are witnessing these decreases in numbers, because in the Americas, they saw a 9% increase in the number of cases. And in Africa, we also saw a 32% increase of infections. The number of new weekly deaths also increased in Southeast Asia region by 41% due to a delay in reporting of deaths from India. In Africa, we also saw an increase in COVID-19 related deaths. Actually, a 110% increase was witnessed in Africa for that period. Now, in Nigeria, there's been a lull in the COVID data reporting. The latest data published by the NCDC shows that only 6 infections and no COVID-19 related deaths were officially reported on the 21st and 22nd of this month, bringing the country's total to what you have on your screen. Let's take a quick look at the continent. The continent, as I said, is experiencing an uptick in both infections and deaths currently. Well, confirmed cases on the African continent from 55 countries reach 11.4 million, according to Africa CDC, while reported deaths reach 252,844 deaths. Over 282 million vaccine doses have however, been administered across the continent. Well, South Africa has the most reported infections and deaths. Other most affected countries are Morocco, Tunisia, Egypt, Libya, Ethiopia, and Kenya. And speaking about South Africa, well, the Center for Epidemic Response and Innovation in the country says South Africa is now in the 5th wave of the COVID-19 pandemic. The country reported over 5,000 cases and 15 deaths in the last 24 hours. They also saw 83 hospitalizations. But there's something we need to look at when we give out this data. You see the high figures of infections, but you see the death rates and the hospitalization. Scientists and government officials, we attribute that to the level of vaccination in their country. But very quickly to the US, where the top infectious disease expert, Dr. Anthony Fauci, says the US has now transitioned into a more controlled phase of the COVID-19 pandemic after a brutal winter surge. But he was very quick to add that this does not mean that the pandemic is over. Dr. Fauci believes that the U.S. needs to get more people fully vaccinated, get even better vaccines, figure out the best booster strategy to counter variants, and make sure people can access treatment as soon as they need it. And finally, a joint report by Amnesty International and Center for Economic and Social Rights has found staggering inequality as the core factor behind disproportionate COVID-19 deaths in Latin America. While examining statistics, these two bodies checked statistics from the start of the pandemic in 2020 till February this year. And the report released on Wednesday revealed that more than 1.6 million people died in Latin America from COVID-19 related causes. Now, you do know that there are about 6.2 million officially reported deaths globally, and Latin America has reported 1.6. That's about 2/3. If I'm not wrong, that's, beg your pardon, a third. That's 28% of the total COVID-19 deaths. And despite having 8.4% of the world population living in Latin America. That is huge, guys. Back to you.
Well, thank you, Adeso. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. It will have been nice to comment on the situation in South Africa, where the National Institute for Communicable Diseases tells us that they've not been able to establish that the new variants, suspected variants, BA4, BA5, are responsible for this new fifth wave trend. That has been most notable in KwaZulu-Natal, in Cape Town, and in Gauteng. But maybe tomorrow we'll have more time. Thank you very much, Adeso.